So I just watched the television series Film Club starring Amy Lou Wood. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Apologies if I didn't. This follows the story of a 28-year-old girl who moves back home after having a nervous breakdown. It's about her and her friendship with this man who both share a love for films and have their own film club, which they attend each week. I would almost akin it to Fleabag in the sense that there's a lot of comedy in this, but at the same time, there is quite a deeper thing under the surface. It's quite impactful towards the end, where the character decides to goes in towards the end is very moving. From where she is at the start of the series to where she is at the end, it's quite inspiring, especially in this economy of young adults who are living at home and who don't really know where they want to go next with their life. So I think it's very validating for people who are in that situation, especially young people. But what's very heartfelt about this series is that the main character, played by Emily Wood, has a really great support circle around her. Her mum, her younger sister. Her support circle's patience is tested, and she realizes that she needs to go start paving a different direction and stop stagnating in the same pattern she's been in for the 6 months since she's come back. The last episode, I really liked the decision she took. There was a really great conversation between her and her friend. For a bit of context, at the start, he tells her that he's moving to Bristol. There's this whole will they, won't they, but it's a bit complicated by the fact that she has a partner and he's never really been felt courageous just enough to express himself to her. And the conversation they have at the end, I thought was very empowering for her character. What she said to him, there was a moment where basically he described his heart as exploding, so he was getting very excited about him coming to meet him at the station, and with the implication that was potentially carrying for them entering entering a romantic relationship instead of platonic, which they have had for many years. And he has in his head this very fantastical idea about how they would both live their life together. Let's get a house in Bristol, we'll have these chairs, we'll have wine and so forth, or we'll move to this country and that. Basically, she grounds the whole situation that he otherwise fantasizes in his head. She gives him an ultimatum which ultimately grounds him and also is ultimately good for her, where she's been stagnating for many months. And she basically makes a decision which, in the end, is more healthier for her and which we can see by the end of it. However, I will say, at the very end, there's this scene that the last minute is very cliche and predictable. From where the conversation with Amy Wood's character and her friend goes at the train station earlier on in the final episode, you think it's going to go that way. And then it doesn't. It's grounded. The context of it is grounded and less fantastical, with her making a direction to improve herself, understanding what it is she needs. But then that whole arc, I feel, gets made redundant almost by the decision, by what happens in the last minute, becomes predictable. If you probably have an idea of what it is that I'm implying, and that for me, it sort of ruins that whole, not necessarily ruined, but it sort of diminished that whole scene at the train station earlier on. So overall, I'd say it was a really good series, and really good performances. Saran Jones as her mum, she played these keys of comedy and very overbearing mother, very concerned for her daughter's safety and mental health. It was a very raw family dynamic, it was. The young kid actor who was from Adolescence, a really great series, by the way. Very heavy stuff, but really good. And there's a couple of scenes that he and Amy Wood's character share, which are very funny, but also quite moving. It's quite a nice steady growth their relationship shows and their dynamic as the series progresses. But by the end, it's actually quite touching where their little friendship ends up. And you could understand why Amy Louise Reed's character embellished herself in films. It was almost an escapism. It was to perhaps distract herself from the reality of maybe what she's avoiding or is afraid of. But she wasn't that one-dimensional as someone who was completely immersed in films. She was able to dip in and out of that hobby of hers. That wasn't all of her. A very multi-dimensional character, with other things besides her love for film going on. Very well written, very well acted, really good story, and I think a story that quite a lot of people, especially young people in today's climate, can relate to, and I hope find maybe some sort of drive that they can get better and go on the verge to improve their lives, even if it's, and as her character says, one of the characters says, one step at a time, baby steps, one step. you know it's always about that first step, taking that first step to improving your life. Yes, I'd definitely recommend you go check this series out. It's Film Club on BBC iPlayer now. All episodes streaming now.